जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। गोपीजना वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। गोपीजना वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। यशोदनंदन व्रजजनरंजन। यशोदनंदन व्रजजनरंजन। यशोदानंदन व्रजजनरंजन। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपीजना वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपीजना वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। यशोदनंदन व्रजजनरंजन। यशोदानंदन व्रजजनरंजन। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan, Radhe. Jai Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jagannatha, Jagannatha, Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Stotra Satha Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Labai Charanarvinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Stotra Satha Sri Srimad His Divine Grace La Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki Jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिगोवर्धन की जय। ब्रजभूमि श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। नवद्वीप श्री मायापुर धाम की जय। पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। गंगा माँ यमुना माई की जय। वृंद देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। Srila Prabhupada Transcendental Book Distribution ki jai. The most merciful Lordship Sri Sri Radha Madan Mohan ji ki jai. The most merciful Lordship Sri Sri Gaunithai ki jai. The most merciful Lordship Sri Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Samaveta Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Nithai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Shaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam ततो जयमुदीरये नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवता सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 13, entitled The Descendants of Dhrumaras, text number 24. Etad akyahi me brahman Etad akyahi me brahman Sunithatmaja cheshtitam Sunithatmata cheshtitam Shraddadhanaya bhaktaya Shraddadhanaya bhaktaya Tvam paravara vittamaha Tvam paravara vittamaha. Jai Shri Shri Gaunithai Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan Shri Shri Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Maharani ki jai. Etadakyahi me brahman Sunithatmaja cheshtitam Shraddadhanaya bhaktaya Tvam paravara vittamaha. Etadakyahi me brahman Sunithatmaja cheshtitam Shraddadhanaya bhaktaya Tvam paravara vittamaha. Etadakyahi me brahman Sunithatmaja cheshtitam Shraddadhanaya bhaktaya Tvam paravara vittamaha. Etadakyahi me brahman Sunithatmaja cheshtitam Shraddadhanaya bhaktaya Tvam paravara vittamaha. Etadakyahi me brahman Sunithatmaja cheshtitam Shraddadhanaya bhaktaya Tvam paravara vittamaha. Any Matajis? Etad, all these. Akhyahi, please describe. Me, unto me. Brahman, O great Brahmana. Sunithatmaja, of the son of Suniti. Vena, cheshtitam, activities. Shraddadhanaya, faithful. Bhaktaya, unto your devotee. Tvam, you. Para avara, with past and future. Vittamaha, well conversant. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Vidura requested Maitreya, my dear Brahmana, you are well conversant with all subjects, both past and future. Therefore, I wish to hear from you all the activities of King Vena. I am your faithful devotee, so please explain this. Please repeat. Vidura requested Maitreya, my dear Brahmana, you are well conversant with all subjects, both past and future. Therefore, I wish to hear from you all the activities of King Vena. I am your faithful devotee, so please explain this. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Vidura accepted Maitreya as his spiritual master. A disciple always inquires from the spiritual master, and the spiritual master answers the question, provided the disciple is very gentle and devoted. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said that by the mercy of the spiritual master, one is blessed with the mercy of the Supreme Lord. The spiritual master is not inclined to disclose all the secrets of transcendental science unless the disciple is very submissive and devoted. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the process of receiving knowledge from the spiritual master entails submission, inquiry, and service. Om Jnanatimrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Caitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarobhyasya Kripa Sindhubhaivacha Patithanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabho Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukham karoti vachalam pangam langayate grim Yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. So Vidura, after hearing the description of the descendants of Dhruva Maharaj, especially when Maitreya was describing about King Anga, King Vena, and now Prithu. So he asked this question, these three questions. He put forward three questions. Question one is that, how is that such a great pious king like Anga begot such a rascal like King Vena? It is very astonishing. The second question is that, how the great Brahmanas, they could curse King Vena and curse him to death, even though the punishment, he is the punishment giver, he is the Dandanayaka. Actually the king is supposed to be Dandanayaka, but how he is being subjected to Danda, that is punishment. That's very astonishing. And the third question is that, it's the duty of all citizens in a state never to insult a king, even though he sometimes appears to have done something very sinful. Because of his prowess, the king is always more influential than all other ruling chiefs. It's not that the Brahmanas have birthright to curse someone just because that king is not according to their own opinion, is not acting properly. It's not always that they can curse, because it's very difficult to get a proper king. Brahmanas may be many, but you don't necessarily get a capable king. So it is not a general practice that the Brahmanas will kill or dethrone a king if they are not happy with him. It's not a very exceptional cases this happen. So this is one such exceptional case where Vena was killed. So these were these three questions put forward by Vidura. And they are very interesting questions, because this opens up subject matter of dharma. Because in general, these things don't happen. These are seeming to be exceptional things. Firstly, A good person generally begets a good person. That's a general case. We have always seen this. Some exceptions are there, and exceptions are more in Kali Yuga, but otherwise, the previous yugas, a good person begets a good person. Because they must have performed many sacrifices, they must have pleased the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they must have gone through so many austerities and penances before begetting a child, because that is a general practice before begetting a child. One should not beget child like cats and dogs, as Prabhupada said. Cats and dogs do not go through any purificatory process before begetting a child. But human beings are supposed to go through purificatory processes before begetting a child. So when you are going through purificatory processes, obviously you will be attracting pious souls, and they will be born. So it is definitely understood that King Anga must have done some pious activities before begetting a child. But then how it turns out that such a rascal was born? Sometimes the converse also is true. What is the converse? Converse is that great demons like Hiranyakashipu will beget a child like Prahlad Maharaj. And Hiranyakashipu must have not gone through any austerities or penances to beget Prahlad. But it appeared that Prahlad is born to such a demonic person. So it's very difficult to understand this process of begetting a child. Only we can try to follow the rules and regulations given in the scriptures and acharyas, and it's finally up to Krishna. There are so many intricate things that are there. Who will be coming to the womb of a particular person? Karanam gunasangosya sad asad yoni janmasu. Based on what kind of guna that you are in, such people will be attracted. So, this is one of the questions. It's definitely very interesting to see such happenings in the history. Somebody may be very rascal, but he may have a saintly child. Somebody may be a very saintly person, but he may beget a rascal. We found that Bhaktivinoda Thakur had good children, and some of them are not so good children. The good child is Bhakti Siddhanta, and some of them are not so good children who went against the Vaishnava Dharma. Similarly, Advaitacharya has many good children, but Advaitacharya also has some very bad children who are Mayavadis. He is such a great Acharya, Vaishnava Acharya, but he begot some children who are not proper. So, it's not that you do everything right that you necessarily invite a child. But that doesn't mean that anyway I am not sure, better not to follow anything. Whoever comes, let them come. Doesn't matter. That's another extreme side of it. We should always follow the rules and regulations, and then whatever Krishna gives, we should accept that as Mahaprasad. Where is such a culture today? Who is going to Krishna and praying to Krishna, please bless me with a pious child who can take your glories forward? Nobody is asking like that. Most of the children born in this time and age are Varna Sankaras. They are consequence. They are not wanted children, they are unwanted children. Prabhupada calls them as Varna Sankara, means unwanted children. What is unwanted child? Unwanted child means you are not mentally prepared to beget a pious child. One just indulges in sexual intercourse, and then as a result somebody is born. So that means they are called unwanted children only. It may be very harsh to hear this, but who is following Garbhadana Samskara properly? Even amongst devotees, people are not following Garbhadana Samskara properly. So obviously, the children who are born to devotees, they are not so much attracted to Krishna consciousness, they are trying to explore other things in life. Why that is happening? Because proper samskaras are not followed. So the question is, how can Anga beget a child like Vena, who is such a, such a crazy king that the Brahmanas had to kill him. So then the second question is that Brahmanas are supposed to be very forgiving and tolerant. How did they kill, this King Vena? Now here are some important things that we have to understand. It is not easy to find a qualified king. You may want to dethrone someone. That may be easy. Dethrone someone and then create lawlessness. At least when King Vena was there, all the rogues and dacoits were very much afraid of King Vena. Because he is a bigger rogue and dacoit than the rogues. He is the don of the dons. King Vena was the don of the dons. So everybody was afraid. So even if they are doing, loot maar kar rahe hain, the portion of it will go to the king. So it is like that kind of a situation. So, but if he is not there on the helm of affairs, what happens? These people will not have any control. They can completely snatch the properties and snatch the, opulence of people. Wherever they want, they can get in and then they can kill people, they can, do all that, whatever they want to do, because there is nobody in the helm of affairs. So they are very much concerned that, how can they do this, even if the king is… And then that leads to the next question. The next question is that Prabhupada explains very beautifully this concept of Naranarayana and Naradeva. King is called Naranarayana. Naranarayana means the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is why he is called Naranarayana. Naranarayana, not Naranarayan Rishi. He is called Naranarayana. Means he is the representative of Narayana amongst the Naras. That is why he is called Naranarayana. And the Brahmanas are called Naradevatas. So how Naradevatas can curse Naranarayana? Which is very astonishing. And they cursed him to death. So which is very unusual. And it is said, even if the king has done something very wrong, still he deserves to be respected, he deserves to be forgiven, even if the king has done something wrong. Then you may say, why king is supposed to be the person in high position? If he does mistake, everybody else will do mistake also. So whatever little punishment that he does, it should not be tolerated, he must be punished. Who is giving such judgment? Only upstarts will start thinking like this. He should be removed, he has done like this. For every small thing, there are people who are in the lower standard will try to point out fingers. They don't know what is the difficulty of actually managing a kingdom. If you have to put them on that place, in one day they cannot sustain. Such people will just make judgments just like that. Even in the present degraded political system also, we are all saying, these politicians are rascals. You be a politician, you will know what is the difficulty of it, being a politician. One day you become a prime minister or a chief minister, even a minister or even an MLA, even a corporator. One day you will know what is the difficulty of being a corporator. Everybody comes and then exorbitant desires they will put forward and ask you to fulfill those desires. You'll become completely mental. So you want to run away. The point is, unless one is a very thick-skinned person, I'm not saying that these are great people, or our politicians are great people. I'm saying they have become so thick-skinned now. They know, they have taken it for granted that these fellows will approach us for favors and we should simply take money and not do favors. So, either one has to, and every day they have to speak something bad about other party. Otherwise, they can never be news. Even though the other person may be a good person, still they have to say something because they have to hit the headlines. To hit the headlines, throw some mud on the person who is on top. That is the general tendency, to hit the headlines. So everybody will be speaking something or the other about some big man. So all newspapers filled with this garbage of fault finding, fault finding, fault finding. So in that kind of a scenario, if you are a very sensitive person, you cannot remain as a politician. Similarly, when the praja is very unsubmissive, uncontrolled, to become a king of such praja is very, very difficult. Today, we may want Ramarajya, but do the citizens deserve Ramarajya? Even Rama comes or even Yudhishthira comes, he will do namaskar and go away to the praja. Because the praja is so nonsensical. They are not truthful, they are duplicitous, they have so many big time material desires, their senses are not controlled, they are not disciplined, but yet they want every facility. The praja want every facility. So it is very difficult to be a king for such people. So if you want to become a leader of people, the people must be controlled. So somehow it appears that, it's very difficult to get a king like that. So he is asking the question, sir, why did they curse such a king? But the point what he did not know probably is that even though they cursed Vena, they knew very well that there is another great personality who is going to come and rule the kingdom. So they have taken the right hand of King Vena and started churning the body of King Vena, and from that body came one great personality called Prithu Maharaj, who is the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and who has ruled the kingdom in such a wonderful way that, for millions of years that ruling is remembered by all citizens. So these questions were put forward. When Parikshit Maharaj was also, when he did a mistake, so-called mistake, the Brahmana boy did not consider the kind of service that Parikshit Maharaj did. Whom is he dealing with? He is dealing with a great emperor called Parikshit Maharaj who has kept Kali aside. He did not think about it. One little small mistake which he never did before. It's not that he is an habitual offender of Brahmanas. By mistake he did that. And what was the consciousness behind doing that mistake? When he went to that person who was doing meditation, he wanted to know whether he is actually doing meditation or he is pretending. Samikrishi. So he tested him by lifting a dead snake with his arrow and then put it around his neck. And then he did not take any offense. Because he was a Vaishnava, he did not take any offense. Samikrishi did not take any offense. Who took the offense? The upstart boy. He took the offense. He was just a small boy. This is exactly what I am saying. Who will find faults? People who are immature, people who do not know the gravity of the service those people are doing, they'll just simply pass judgments. He should be removed. He should not be there. Why is he behaving like this? As if he is sitting on the judge seat. Only upstarts will find such faults. So that is how he found fault. And then he not only found fault, he even judged him with a sentence of death. This man should be killed by a snake bite within 7 days' time. Samikrishi was feeling so bad that, my son, who is very immature, he did not consider the greatness of King Parikshit and the kind of protection that he has given to this world by keeping the Kali at bay. So the point is that don't pass judgments on someone who is doing a responsible service without understanding the scope of their service and the kind of service that they have done. It's easy to criticize someone who is on the top because anyone who is on the top is an object of envy for many people. Everybody wants to find fault with them simply because they want to actually take that position. If you want to take some higher position, what you should do? They call in English, give a dog bad name and hang it. Ordinary dog you cannot catch. You have to say, mad dog, mad dog, mad dog, mad dog. Then you know who will come? The municipality people will come and then take that. You have to call him as a mad dog, bad dog, mad dog. Similarly, call that person who is sitting on the top, he is rascal, he has done this, he has done this. Make a big hue and cry so that someone can come and know, as if something is really happening, and then remove that person. So that now I will be sitting in that position. So this is a very dirty mentality, political mentality. This is called Kutinati mentality. Vaishnavas never do such things. So this boy, Shringi, he did not even consider what was Parikshit's greatness. He simply, sentenced him to death. It was said that if King Parikshit is so powerful, if he wanted, he could have reversed the curse and even punished the boy. What do you think of yourself? Who do you think you are? You dare punish me? You dare curse me? What qualification do you have? He could have said it. He didn't do that. He just accepted this curse as arrangement of Lord Krishna. Maybe Krishna has something higher for me, so that's why this has happened. This was really astonishing when this story is being told by Sutta Goswami to all the sages of Naimisharanya. They were asking these questions. How is that suddenly King Parikshit left this kingdom? He had such youth with him, he had such submissive subjects with him, everything was flourishing nicely in his kingdom. There were no upstarts. Generally people want to go to forest when nobody follows them, out of frustration. Generally people want to, many times we find in our brahmacharya ashram, people want to come and join brahmacharya ashram and they are failure in their education. And then they take that saying, Prabhu, what is the use, Prabhu? Everything is temporary. This education is also temporary. I want to serve Krishna. Please allow me. You have to check his background before before hearing. You check his background. Similarly, some people, Vanaprasthas also, they want to come and, sir, I will give any amount, please give me a small room. Because, this person is neglected by his wife, children, everybody. So, he suddenly gets renunciation. And then he wants to come and join. I'm speaking, purposefully, a little humorously or a little skeptically or harshly, but this is the fact. This is the fact. Renunciation because of helplessness is not proper renunciation. Renunciation should be born out of knowledge and attraction for Krishna. That is true renunciation. So, Maharaj Parikshit, there is no reason for Maharaj Parikshit to leave the kingdom. And they have put forward one more important point. Even for selfish considerations, if you give up, but there is one consideration, he was actually shelter for many of these, all his citizens, he was the shelter. How can someone who is giving shelter to others simply leave suddenly? Some positions if you take, accept certain responsibilities, and then if you want to suddenly you become very spiritual and renounced and you want to run away, is not acceptable. For example, you got married and you have half a dozen children, and then suddenly renunciation came. What will happen to your half dozen children? Or you have accepted the position of a spiritual master, and then you have hundreds of disciples, and then suddenly you left that responsibility, you fell down or something like that. What will happen to these people? Hundreds of these disciples. So before doing any mistake, one should consider the consequences of this mistake. Once Prabhupada was, walking with his disciples. They found a dead snake, and the snake is bitten by so many ants. So the disciples looked at that incident, saw that scene and then asked Prabhupada what to understand from this. Prabhupada said, in the previous life, the snake was the spiritual master, ants are his disciples, he said. This was what Prabhupada said. So the point is that don't accept heavy responsibilities if you cannot deliver your dependents. So these sages of Naimisharanya, they asked, he is the shelter, king is the shelter of so many citizens, everything is going on nicely, how did he leave suddenly? Left everyone in oblivion. It appears very injustice, great injustice to the citizens. And then Sutta Goswami explained the whole story of how this happened, how Maharaj Parikshit, in what circumstances Maharaj Parikshit had to leave the kingdom and giving it to Janamejaya. The point is this. Point is, usually these things don't happen. The people in a lower stage trying to, find faults with those who are in a higher stage. So these are the questions. Now the point is, the purport is completely different. Now I will come to the purport. The purport, Prabhupada says that these questions were asked by Vidura to Maitreya in a very submissive spirit. He asked these questions. Questions can be asked with two attitudes: curiosity, more attitudes, but at least two prominent attitudes people ask questions. One is with curiosity, another is with service attitude. So here the questions put forward by Vidura is not out of curiosity. They are doing it with great service attitude by opening up the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam so that the people in general, including themselves, can relish the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam. And curiosity questions are mostly knowledge or jnana based questions. I don't know, can you please tell me? Why should that answer? Prabhupada sometimes answered the questions like this. Swamiji, what is the answer to this? Prabhupada said, why should I answer? Why should I answer? As if you have purchased me, I have to now answer your question. So absurd enquiries, challenging enquiries, not entertained. It's not that, you can ask any question and then the speaker has to answer your questions. He may choose not to answer if your attitude is not right. So that is why it is mentioned how one should approach spiritual personalities. Pranipatena. One should be very submissive. Sir, I am ignorant, I do not know, I wish to know this from you, if you so desire to explain it to me. And if you think it is beneficial for me, please explain it to me. This is a proper way of asking questions. It's not that, you ask questions just like a mathematics professor is writing something on the board. Teacher, what is this? What is this? Like this. You don't ask questions like that to spiritual personalities. You have to ask questions with great service attitude, with great submission, folding your hands. So Prabhupada also asked such questions. One must ask questions to the spiritual master. It's not an option. One must ask questions. You may say, no, I am not getting any questions. Generally, many of us don't ask questions. Why? Because we have nothing to do with what that person says. That's why we don't ask questions. You ask questions only when you consider that person's speech seriously. You don't even consider. Mostly we are sleeping or we are absorbed somewhere else. We are waiting for the Bhagavatam class to end as quickly as possible. So then that's when we don't ask questions at all. We get rejuvenated when we come to hear the sound, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Then, immediately we get rejuvenated. We get further ecstatic when we come to know Mahaprasade Govinde. So, consider the subject matter very seriously, see the application of the subject matter, see its relevance in your life, then you get questions. Questions will come when you want to apply those teachings in your life, questions will come. Otherwise, questions will not come, because we have not seriously considered the subject matter. Or questions may come when you don't understand certain things. You're actually paying a lot of attention and you don't understand certain philosophical points, so that's when you ask the question, which is all right. But when you ask question, how one should ask question, it is mentioned. Sir, if you so desire, can you please clarify this doubt of mine if you think it is beneficial for me? You can parrot like this, but cultivate this consciousness and ask questions. And only such enquiries are very pleasing to the heart of the spiritual master or guru. Not that any enquiry he will entertain. So when guru sees that there is a genuine enquiry spirit in the disciple, he will become very happy to answer such questions. So, submission, enquiry and service. Three are inseparable components of any disciple's enquiry to the spiritual master. So that is exactly what is exhibited by Vidura. And when you actually ask questions, such questions, the speaker or the spiritual personality who is in that position become very happy. One devotee shared with me, he was giving a class, and then at the end of the class is about, how we are all related to Krishna, we are all part and parcel of Krishna, we are supposed to be eternal servants of Krishna, and we have given up that position, we are simply struggling in the material world and all these things. At the end of the class, very brand new person, first time he came to the temple or he attended the class, he asked a question. The question is, sir, can you please tell me, as a family member of Krishna, what is my responsibility towards Krishna's family? This question inspired the speaker so much. Brand new person asking this question. People who are hearing classes for, hundreds of times, they never ask such a question. Just see the question with such service attitude. What is my responsibility towards the family of Krishna? It's such an application-oriented question. It is. We always ask questions like, can Krishna lift a rock can Krishna lift such a big rock which he cannot create? You understood? These are called college conflicting questions. These kind of questions. Why did Jiva fall down from the Vaikuntha when it is said that not even a leaf falls from Vaikuntha? And then he thinks, I put Swamiji into trouble. Swamiji, are you Guru? Yes. Guru is supposed to know everything? Yes. How many windows are there in Empire State Building? And then he gets a shocking answer. How many drops of water are there in Miras? Completely bewildered. You are dealing with Swamiji, not any regular, ordinary Bhagavatam speaker. So, the question should not be like that. Question should come from a very deep, inquisitive, inquiry spirit. Athato Brahma Jinyasa. But they must be corroborated with submission to the spiritual personalities. So then one becomes very happy. Actually, Suta Goswami was very happy. He was so happy, he said, Munaya sadhu prishtoham bhavadbhir lokamangalam yakrita Krishna samprashno yatma suprasidati. That, sir, I feel so fortunate to even hear these questions, because your questions are related to Krishna. Yakrita Krishna samprashno. Yatma suprasiddhati. And this will actually satisfy the hearts of everyone. Simply asking such questions related to Krishna satisfy everyone. And bhavadbhir lokamangalam, this whole world will be benefited by such inquiry. One good question can completely lit up the consciousness of so many people. One good question. And it must have these components: inquiry, submission, and service attitude. So that is why saying, we think that, spiritual personalities, they are pleased if you give something material to them. They are not pleased if you give something material. But they are pleased when you make relevant inquiries, they are pleased. Because definitely that soul is opened up now for service. That means that inquiry spirit is opened up. Now they are receptive of this transcendental knowledge, and then they can do great service if they receive this transcendental knowledge. There are so many people who may become influenced externally and then may offer so many gifts to Swamijis. Always the Acharya is looking for one person who can understand it properly. That is why Prabhupada said at the end of, in the beginning, introduction of Bhagavad Gita, even if one person by studying this Bhagavad Gita becomes a pure devotee, I consider all my works to be successful. That means they are looking for that one person who can crack this science. And how do they crack the science? By their submission. By their submission and service attitude. So it is not some, something which you can acquire. Only when the spiritual master is pleased, yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado. Only when he is pleased, that knowledge will be revealed to you. It's a process of revelation. It's not process of acquisition. It's a revelation process. So, by our attitude, by our inquiry, and by our submissive spirit and our service attitude, we should please spiritual personalities. And if they are pleased, the transcendental science is revealed to us in our own heart. This is the only process by which you will know the transcendental subject matters. Otherwise one cannot know. No matter how learned one may be, no matter how speculative mind one may possess, no matter how many books one may read, none of these things fetch realization. Realization is gifted, not acquired. So if we understand, we will never try to pose as if we are great personalities or we are very learned and we can speak very nicely and then ask many things nicely. If we cannot become humble and submissive and please the spiritual master through our submissive inquiry, we are a failure as a disciple. So that is what is mentioned here. He actually pleased Maitreya through his relevant, submissive questions. And now Maitreya is going to answer any questions or comments.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for wonderful class. You mentioned about those three questions. In the first question, you mentioned the point about after the point that coming Nar Narayana and Nar Deva. After that, you mentioned one point. You told about the quality of leaders. That so in that you mentioned one point that if you are sensitive person, then you cannot become leader. So that how can we understand? Like, how can I apply in my life? Because sensitivity is also required and leadership qualities are also required.
I am talking about these politicians. If you are a sensitive person, you cannot be a politician. Because politician means leaders of those praja which are uncontrolled senses, who have uncontrolled senses. You can be leader for those who have controlled senses. So, you may say, where will I find controlled senses devotees? You control your senses, by looking at you, they will control their senses. That is how you become a leader of some people. But don't become leader of uncontrolled people. It is waste of time, In fact, it is torturous to become a leader of uncontrolled, people of uncontrolled senses. They will torture you. Maybe we have chosen to become a leader of uncontrolled people because we have some motivation, material motivation. That's why we want to become a leader. Leadership is meant for service. Leadership is not meant for exploitation. That if we understand, no sane man want to be leader, in fact. If you understand, leadership is only for service and not for exploitation. So that is why leadership is an appointed leadership. It's not an aspiring leadership. Because it is a position of service. I want to be Bhakta-Vriksha leader. Somebody has to appoint you. I want to be a teacher, Prabhu. Somebody has to appoint you. I want to be a spiritual master, Prabhu. Somebody has to appoint you. Wait. There's one person who went to Prabhupada and asked, Prabhupada, some people are asking me to become their spiritual master. What should I do? Prabhupada said, it's not a proper etiquette to become a spiritual master while one's own spiritual master is present. So wait till he passes away and then you become spiritual master. He had to say this to this man. Because they are so uncultured. So it's not easy becoming a leader.
I understand from your point that leader is using for service purpose. My question is this, Prabhuji, that if someone is appointed as a leader,
okay,
even the subjects may be uncontrolled senses and controlled senses, both type of persons are there.
Right.
Now in that situation, now he appointed for the leaders, in that situation, because you told the example of Parikshit Maharaj, so that boy give the curse to the Parikshit Maharaj. So these type of people are always there under him. Then in that type of situation, how can we handle that position?
How can the leader handle the situation?
Those situation or those pupils. Like, so that
Means how the leader can handle, right? That's your question? Well, leader has to be very, very, it is said that, that's why in the Vedic system, the leaders or the kings always take advice of Brahmanas. Brahmanas, why do they take advice of Brahmanas? Because Brahmanas consult the scripture. Brahmanas are well versed in scripture. So scriptural teachings have to be applied in a relevant manner in a particular situation. You can't bluntly apply the scriptural teachings. So it is said, a Parikshit Maharaj like king, he is even, in the same Bhagavatam, first canto, it is mentioned, the Parikshit Maharaj, even though he has an assembly of Brahmanas who can give advice, but he is so expert that what advice has to be taken and how it needs to be applied in a particular case. So it is said that he is even more intelligent than all the Brahmanas put together. Parikshit Maharaj. That is of course, he is a great devotee of the Lord, so he has that intelligence. But general principle is that, the Kshatriyas take advice from the Brahmanas and then execute their services. That is a very protected situation for a Kshatriya. Not that, he thinks that I am the king, so king is always right. Whatever I say, everybody must listen, including the Brahmanas. That's not a proper attitude of a king. Administrators should always be subservient to the intelligent class, Brahmanical class. Any other question, comment? All right, thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.